Hi everyone, and welcome back to Haskell Seminar. Today's video will be talking about setting priorities for the spring 2022 semester. So at this point we're late enough in the semester that we're not quite 100% to the point where you know for sure how you did this semester with final grades and such, but we are far enough along that you can probably think about this semester so far in review, and we're closer to the end. You can probably start to make some assessments about what worked well this semester, what maybe didn't work well this semester, what you'd like to change in the future, the things that are working that you don't want to change. If you may not 100% know how you did in each class, you probably have an idea at this point. You know which classes you've turned in work in. You've probably gotten graded feedback on a lot of those assignments. Certainly you've had plenty of time in class or the equivalent for online classes that are maybe asynchronous like this one. So you probably have an idea about how well you're learning this content, how well you're doing on your assignments, whether you're doing your assignments at all. And so you probably have at least some idea of how things are gonna look for you grade-wise at the end of the semester. So this is a time to then think about the things you struggled with this semester. How might you improve that in future, specifically next semester? The things you felt you've done well, how can you make sure you continue to do those things well into the next semester? And how can you maybe learn from those lessons and apply them to other things, other subjects or other classes or other aspects of your life? Similarly, with those things you did struggle with, what lessons can you learn from those? Sometimes it can be helpful even if something didn't turn out well. You know not to do that in the future. I remember when I was an undergrad, scheduling an 8 a.m. class in music appreciation for myself. And after that semester, I came away with the lesson I had learned: never schedule a class that early again. And I never did. So definitely, even things that don't work out well, if you learn from them, as my mom always likes to say, if you learn from it, it's not a mistake, it's a lesson. So let these be lessons and not mistakes if there are things that did not turn out the way you wanted them to turn out. So, specifically when talking about setting priorities, one of the big things that is going to tend to involve is figuring out some level of time management, and also figuring out what it is that you have to divide your attention and your focus between. So for all of you, it's probably going to include classes and schoolwork somewhere in there. For a lot of you, it will involve athletics. So a lot of you will involve like some kind of job, some external kind of extracurricular activities, generally having a social life. All of these are the sorts of things that you kind of have to choose to prioritize or not, as we've talked about before this semester. So I guess I'm a little curious, and there will be a kind of accompanying kind of assignment on Friday. How do you think your current set of priorities worked out this semester? Are you happy with the way everything turned out? Do you feel like you're giving everything the amount of attention that it deserved? The amount of attention that'll get you where you want to go as far as end results? If you're not 100% happy with it, how do you think you might shift those priorities next semester in order to get something that you are a little happier with, to maybe make it easier to achieve those goals that you set for yourself? Keep in mind, you're the only one who can set goals for yourself and define whether you've met those goals for yourself. For some of you, you want that A. And I totally understand. I was that kind of student as an undergrad myself. And so, that was a priority for you. Some other students may not be as focused on that, and may just be like, if I can pass classes, that's fine, that's all that matters. Obviously, those two students are going to have a very different set of priority on how much time and effort they spend on classes and schoolwork. It may be that the person who's happy with the C is putting some of those priority and attention and focus into other areas. And that's a totally legitimate kind of response. Just be aware that, whatever you're ending up with, make sure it's something that you're happy with and you can live with those consequences. Because there's no problem getting straight C's, but if you end up getting D's or F's, that is going to mean in the long run you're probably going to run into some issues. So definitely, if there's a certain minimum level of kind of performance you need to hit in order to stay in college or something, and it's important to you to be able to stay in college and have the freedom it affords you, or have possible future opportunities getting a degree could give you, then you want to make sure that you're doing those bare minimum things in order to get there. If you're not, then don't be surprised when you don't get there. So, how do you feel how your priorities went? If you're happy with them, that's great. You probably don't need to make any changes. If you're not 100% happy with them, what things maybe do you want to prioritize more? What things you want to prioritize less? And how do you think you'll maybe go about that in the future? One of the things that is always related to priorities is time management, because as we saw back with our, time budgeting stuff back in the beginning of the semester, all of us have the same amount of hours in a week, 168. Obviously, some people have a little more freedom in how they spend those hours than others, so you may have advantages that make it easier to focus on certain things for a certain number of hours that others don't. But in general, you've got the same literal amount of time. So how do you want to spend that time? It is a very limited amount of time. So how do you want to spend that time, and where do you want to spend it? Where do you want to focus on? So as part of thinking about your priorities for next semester, think about how you felt you did this semester with time management and spending your time where you wanted to spend your time and focusing on your attention on the things you wanted to focus on. Again, if you feel happy with how it went, then you're probably good and don't need to make a ton of changes. Your priorities are probably just carry them through to the spring semester and you should be good, although you may obviously want to reevaluate if next, because every semester is different. You're taking different classes, different instructors, you have different kind of life demands, so you still want to take every semester as it comes, but nevertheless you can go in tentatively expecting that something similar to this one. So again, if you're not happy with it, with how your time management went, how might you change or not change things next semester? One other thing I'd like to kind of mention when it comes to priorities for the spring and setting yourself up for success is course planning. So by this point, the pre-enrollment period is over, although you can still pre-enroll with your advisor, I think through the beginning of the next semester, and then of course there's that drop week. But obviously the earlier you enroll, the better. So you should hopefully have contacted your advisor, if you listen to my advice, talked about pre-enrollment, and you should hopefully be already enrolled in courses for the spring. If you are, that's great. You're exactly where you should be. If you're not, you pray to get on that and get into classes for the spring. Regardless of whether you are enrolled or not enrolled, though, once you are enrolled, now is the time to try to set yourself up for success. Or maybe not right now because you're still focusing on wrapping up this semester, but certainly be thinking about the next semester before it starts. And to some extent, you may want to even think about some of this stuff within the next week or two, based on what you've learned about yourself as a student this semester. First of all, ensure the schedule you set up for the spring is workable for you. And that may or may not have been an issue this semester, but if, like this semester, you notice that, hey, if I take an early morning class, I'm less likely to make it to class. That's something you know about yourself now. And if you're enrolled in an early morning class for the spring, if you can at all change that class, do. Because you know that that one is probably not going to work out as well as you want it to. As well as it would if it were not an early morning class. Make sure you're leaving yourself time for things that you know you need after this semester. If you know that you get cranky and, don't function very well if you skip meals, then make sure that you leave time for lunch and time when Curtis is open, or at least time to go somewhere else besides Curtis. If you have other commitments, a job, athletics practice, extracurricular activities, that sort of thing, make sure that you're scheduling your classes in such a way that you won't run into too many conflicts. Because the problem is if you do run into a conflict with something that you know is an existing issue, instructors are probably going to have a little less sympathy because they're like, well, you knew that when this class was scheduled. Obviously, we tend to cut a little more slack when it comes to, emergency things that you could not have predicted. But when it comes to, if you know you have athletics practice at, 4 p.m. every day, then don't schedule a class that, goes to 4:15 or 4:30. Because you know you're going to have to leave that class early every day. So maybe skip that, schedule something a little earlier or later if that'll work better. So make sure that your schedule that you've got set up works for you. Also, think tentatively based on this semester about how much time you'll need every week to get work done. Obviously, when you get to the actual classes, that may change. It will probably change just because, again, classes are different and instructors are different. But based on this semester, you can at least rough out a kind of idea of how much you might want to spend on schoolwork, in class, etc. And make sure that that's something that is workable for you with your other commitments. One of the things that I think often, that I always ask my advisees, is whether they want to take 12 hours or 15 hours per semester. In general, 15 hours is the recommended. If you want to finish a 4-year degree in 4 years with no summer classes, or a 2-year degree in 2 years with no summer classes. That said, a lot of folks have enough on their plate that it may suit them better to have that minimum 12 hours to just be considered full-time. And that choosing to do that then it is more likely to set them up for success than overbooking themselves and then having to drop something when the semester starts. So make sure that you're realistic in terms of your expectations as far as what you can actually do in the time that you have for the spring. If you think you're filling up your schedule too much, maybe you can cut it down. Although if you're staying in the dorms or trying to get financial aid, you will probably need to have at least that minimum 12 hours. And by the same token, if you're someone who is only really working on your school stuff because that's all you really have, maybe some social life stuff, but you're not doing athletics, you don't have a job, or extracurriculars, then you feel like this semester was maybe easier than you you can go more than 15. I have had students who have taken as many as 18 to 21 hours a semester. I would not necessarily recommend this for everyone, just as a kind of heads up. This was a student who was very invested in finishing her degree early, and she definitely it was a lot to take on, but she was not working. She did not have athletics practice, I don't believe. Basically all she had in terms of stuff that she had to do was school. She wasn't balancing childcare or anything like that. So it is possible to do that. If you do decide you want to take more hours, again, I would make 110% sure that you can handle it. And B, in order to enroll in that many hours, you would also have to get not only approval from your advisor, but also from the dean of whatever sort of your degree plan is under. For most of you, that would probably be liberal arts, and so that would be that Dean of Humanities and General Education, which is currently the acting dean is Joshua Fallleaf. I said if you're fine with 12 or 15 or really 17 or under, you don't need that approval. So make sure you're taking a realistic amount of hours to get you where you want to go and the amount of time you want to take to get there, but also that you're setting yourself up for success. Also keep in mind that summer classes are a thing. And summer full-time is just 6 hours. So you're set on that front. And also it's less important because most students get financial aid for the spring and the fall. And so you don't actually get separate financial aid for the summer usually, unless you didn't take classes in one of those other semesters. So make sure your schedule works for you. have an idea about how much time you'll need every week to get the work done that you have set for yourself, and make sure that it matches with the amount of work you actually have to do. So, again, if you can plan well, that will set you up for success. It's much easier to make some of those changes at this point, or even like if you're too busy right now, after finals week or after the end of classes, than it is to, be doing it in your first week of classes. Not that you can't still make enrollment changes and such, but at that point, it definitely is it could potentially create more issues in the sense like if you've already ordered books and you decide after you've ordered your books, oh, I don't want this class, some things like that. It might create some issues. So the better you can plan, probably the better shape you'll be in the spring. So hopefully you feel a little better prepared for what you're going to do in the spring. And then again, we'll have a final short assignment next on Friday about your priority setting for the end of the semester. And then next week, we're going to be wrapping things up by talking about the sort of finishing out the semester, like things like finals weeks, and we'll be doing our course evaluations that week, things like that, and how you'll get your final grades, and all of those kinds of miscellaneous administrative things that the end of the semester usually involves, whether for this class or for other classes. And then we will be done at that point. We will not be doing a final exam in this class, so you don't have to worry about that. All of your grades will come from the various, basically, short assignments, and then participation in those discussions. So hopefully you participate in those discussions. If you have not, you may want to. Also, I'm really sorry I am really behind on the grading. I am trying to get caught up on that this week. So hopefully by the end of this week, you'll have a much better idea of where you're currently sitting in terms of your final grade. So that is it for this week, and I will not see you on Wednesday. I will unfortunately not be able to attend our large class session, so I will not be there for that one. But certainly I will hopefully be getting assignments from you, or giving you an assignment on Friday about relating to this video. So have a good week until then, and I will see you all later.